start this video with a disclaimer because the images that you're about to see are not my own work, and I really don't like stealing anybody else's work. No, the images I got from a website called RetroMash, a really good retro website that if you're into this sort of stuff you ought to go and Google and check out. Now, I did email RetroMash a couple of times before making this video to ask permission to use the images, and unfortunately no one has got back to me, and I kind of fear that the webpage may be dormant. So if you are from RetroMash and you would like to discuss the removal of these images from this video, yep, no problem at all. If you just send me a personal email and then we can go from there. Thank you. So right, we're moving forward a few years now to 1982, and unfortunately the 70s summer of love, well, that was long over. To change, fashions had changed. We'd gone through punk rock and then new romantics were starting out. Politically, we were under a hard right conservative government with Thatcherism, and unemployment was on the rise. Thankfully, Argos sort of stayed around about the same, so let's dive into this one. Let's see what's changed in 8 years. Okay, so once again the catalogue opens with the tools section, and it's really nice to see these old Black & Decker drills, the ones with the cast front end for the gearbox, and the chances are if you owned one of these it probably still works today. Next up is the automotive section, and well, those lovely boy racer days of the 70s with the bolt-on spotlights and gauges, well, they've all gone, I'm afraid. Now, pick of the page for me, well, these dazzling rear fog lights that you could stick in your back window, and they always fell off because your back window used to get steamed up, but these things were great for dazzling the person behind you, a real kind of driving weapon, and they're really nicely demonstrated in this lovely little Mark I Ford Fiesta. Good to see that Argos were still selling seat covers, because in the 80s if you bought a baseline car, well, it came with awful vinyl seats that in the summer would get so hot it'd literally tear your skin off, so you definitely needed a set of furry seat covers. Remember, of course, early 80s cars still had carburetors, so you still needed to tinker and tune them, and but check out on this page, there's a little leftover from the 70s boy racerism, the twin air horns here at the top, next to the rather nifty spark plug cleaner. Into the photography section, yeah, the golden era of cameras is coming to an end. You've still got some rather nice SLRs here on the right, but those lovely rangefinders from Canon and Olympus, they're no longer sold, and things are starting to turn a little bit more plasticky. I guess the 80s was a time of convenience, so maybe the 35mm cameras were getting a little bit bulky because the 110 format seemed rather popular. Not a great format in my opinion, you know, very small negative, not a particularly good clear image, but they were trying. You can see down the bottom here, you could actually buy a 110 camera with a proper decent lens. Now, with the curly haired fashion for the ladies, who remembers these heated roller sets? These things, if the rollers weren't on the top of the heating element, would burn your fingers to a crisp. Well, of course, smoking still very popular in the 80s. Check out the pipes and the great smell of brute. Splash it all over on the top. But pick up a page for me, what is kind of rather nifty little electronic chess sets. These seem wonderful in the early 80s. An amazing advancement in electronics. Right, moving on to watches. Well, LED, unfortunately, as nice as it was, has gone, and LCD watches now are all the thing. So pick of the page for me is this rather wonderful Seiko Chronograph watch with the dual dial mode there. I believe this was the one that was used in the Roger Moore James Bond movies. Was it Goldfinger or The Spy Who Loved Me or something like that? Someone else will know, but these things are worth a mint now on eBay. Oh, if you could only go back in a time machine, eh? But what you notice here is Casio are really getting a firm foothold in the cheaper LCD market with their black resin sort of watches, and yeah, that's pretty much how it is still today. Now, things hadn't moved on so much on wall clocks. You've still got these rather naff clock in picture kind of efforts that you see on the left hand side, and yeah, the thing is still a little bit 70s with all those carriage clocks and star shaped things. A bit like wall clocks, I noticed that other things haven't moved on either, such things like equality. Despite having a woman prime minister, it's to note that mainly in the washing sort of section you've still got women kind of shown doing all the work. There's no men featured. It's there's no stay at home dads here, no, not in the early 80s. It's also worth noting, hanging over from the 70s, these blessed carpet sweepers. Yeah, I didn't like them last time. They'd done bloody work. They just pushed dirt around the floor. And, well, they're still there, along with the teas made as well. Yeah, that's kind of still carrying on from the sort of 70s. Check out the kettles there on the left. But look, we've become more sophisticated. We now have coffee percolators and coffee makers. Yeah, we're really getting into it in the 80s. It appears we also had this fascination with spotlights. It appears spotlights were everywhere, and none of the more modern halogen, let alone LED. No, these really were 80 and 100 watt burners. I mean, you get 5 of these up on your ceiling, your electricity bill was going to go through the roof. But if you was stingy and tight and worried about such things, well, you could get one of these plug-in fluorescent units, a great big 4-foot fluorescent tube just hanging on a single bayonet mount. Imagine the stress factor on that. But the pick of the pops on this page is these really naff disco lights, and oh my god, I have to confess that I did have a set of these from Tandy myself in the 80s in my bedroom, turning it into some kind of really crazy disco. I think enough said about that. Turning to the more lifestyle side of the catalogue, yeah, flat pack furniture was really in. Chipboard, of course, not MDF yet, and you had stores like MFI selling you this stuff, and it was almost impossible to put together, but yeah, it was being sold. Oh, I don't know, but check out this really naff LCD clock that you stuck in front of the dial on your phone. But the pick of the page has to be here, the soda stream. What kids did not have a soda stream in their house? And you remember your mum saying, just give it 3 squirts. Well, bloody hell, you'd give it about 10 or 12 of the bastards, and when you opened it, it almost exploded in your face and made you sick because it was so fizzy. But that was all the fun of it back then. Sadly, as we've moved forward in years, all those classical instruments sold in the old 70s catalogue has now gone and been replaced just by a few electronic keyboards. But check out the VL tone by Casio at the top of the page. Remember the da 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 song? Everyone loved that in the 80s and was trying to emulate that with their little VL tone keyboard. You have to remember about this time, home computing hadn't really sort of taken off, so they were still selling the old manual typewriters. Now, in audio, well, things had moved forward with technology but kind of backwards with construction, because those lovely wooden case transistor radios had now been replaced by cheaper plastic radio cassette players. With hip hop starting to smash into the charts, well, you played your music bloody loud, so you had one of these boom boxes that you carried about on your shoulder, munching its way through batteries and breaking your back. But that was what it was all about. Put a bit of cardboard down on the ground and spin on your head. Instead of playing your music as loud as you can, how about something quieter like these personal cassette players? Now, I had one of these in the day, and they were really, really nicely made. All metal construction, nice tactile buttons, and after this they kind of got very cheap and nasty, so this was probably the pinnacle peak of the personal cassette player. If you couldn't afford a personal cassette player or a massive boombox, well, you were stuck with a little mono radio cassette. And this is the sort of thing your nan'd have in a sort of kitchen. Your mates would laugh at you if you tried to walk down the streets with one of these. Moving into your living room, well, the horizontal music centres were now being replaced by the more modern hi-fi stack system. Typical of the 80s, it was more about quantity than quality. If you have a look at these two competitive low-end stack systems, you've got the Binatone and the Amstrad here, where you can sort of see straight away the Amstrad's trying to sell their unit by just giving you loads of extra speakers. In reality, both would have sounded bloody awful. Things were getting slowly better in the car audio market. You could get some sort of half-decent stereos now with graphic equalisers and things, but it'd be a while before that really took off, and then CD players became the normality in cars, and you could actually enjoy some real hi-fi. If you didn't want to rip your standard stereo out, but you had the obligatory add-on graphic equaliser, and who didn't have them in the 80s, but they did kind of work. They did give you a bit more thumping bass and higher treble. Of course, pick of the page goes to CB radio, because the year before, in October 1981, FM CB became legalised in the UK. Argos kind of like took it on. As you can see, not really that many models to choose from here. You've got the two Amstrad 900 and the 901. These would have been the properly made Hong Kong versions. Below that, you've got probably the best radio on the page is the Binatone 5-star. And then below that, you've just got a couple of sort of handhelds and the old Alba 2 channel, which was absolutely dire, but I did actually own one. Moving on to the visual side of things, yeah, well, colour TVs were quite norm, but you're still glad black and whites, black and white portables perhaps in your bedroom, or maybe one in your kitchen. And in the video market, well, VHS has pretty much wiped out Sony Betamax by its stage, and basically everything was on VHS. Your main TV, yeah, mono of course, colour, a bit more reliable than the old sets in these mock wooden cabinets. Check out these two low-end now, these two low-end computer games in the bottom right-hand corner. Of course, this had all been superseded by now. because your new computer games, well, that worked on a cartridge system, which allowed you to have a lot more games. The market leader was the old Atari Woody, but check out on this page you've got the Intellivision, which was sort of in its day kind of seen to be the more superior system, but I noticed on the price it's twice the price of the Atari, and there was less games available for it, so in the end that system did eventually fail. Head to the 70s version of the catalogue. Things have certainly picked up for kids, you know, with the invention of electronic games, lots more to choose from. Of course, Nintendo and Sega many years in the future, but there's still quite a nice variety of things to keep kids amused. Pick of the page on this one goes to the Big Trek, the first programmable computerized toy, and I have actually got one of these in the loft. I need to dig it out and maybe do a video. Kind of nice and reassuring to see there's still board games being sold, as there indeed there is today. I mean, you think in 2016 you can still get Monopoly on a board game. The market was changing. You've got your traditional Action Man here, but there was a lot of more TV themed items going on. If you look over here, you've got the Professional CI5 and Buck Rogers in the 25th century. So yeah, the market was certainly being changed. It's nice to see that things have picked up for girls. There's far more girls' toys in this catalogue, and you've got the massive Barbie and Cindy war going on. I mean, at least as a lads, we just had the one Action Man. Final note, check out the Rubik's Cube and the Rubik's Snake, a must-have toy of the early 80s. Now, another thing that seems to be going on is camping. Camping seems to have suddenly become popular. I don't know if that was because of the economic recession the country's in. Maybe people couldn't quite afford those foreign holidays. But certainly quite a lot of camping gear being sold here on Argos. Pretty naff kind of like ridgepole tents and stuff like that. But yeah, all this stuff kind of... Well, this hasn't really changed, has it? You can still get Caligas burners and little like ice packs and stuff. It appeared that we all wanted to keep fit. Now, pick of this page has to be, check out these bags. Who did not go to school in the 70s and have one of these bags with your PE kit and your books in? It seems that keeping fit in the 80s was rather popular, maybe because it was cheap. You could have one of these electronic contraptions down here on the left that kind of worked your muscles while you watch telly, or you could do the real thing with the gym kit. And is that Arnie there? Is that Arnie? Check him out on the right with that rather lethal looking device. And there certainly was some lethal looking devices around. These like spring things on the bottom of the page, I'm sure they sent a lot of people into casualty with broken jaws and black eyes. Look in the centre now, if you bought a tracksuit, you could look like Steve Austin, the Bionic Man, or maybe Lindsay Wagner, the Bionic Woman. Gotta give it to Argos, even in the midst of an economic recession, they're trying to sell this high-end sun-pearl padded garden furniture where you could laze around your pool. Do you know anyone that had a pool? Well, I certainly don't. For us, well, we had the sort of cheaper, more budget range, which you can sort of see here, these blue sunbeds that were, to be honest, a little bit uncomfortable, and then they were held together underneath by little black kind of rubber bands that after one season, ping, 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 when you sat on them, they would snap. But that's what we had back then. So there you go, that's about the end of this video, another trip down memory lane for some of us. So as before, let me know what you think of these catalogues. I can do another couple if you like. They do take me quite a long time, so you know, let me know in the comments. Give it a thumbs up if you think I should do some more, thumbs down if you don't particularly like them. But yeah, let me know, and I'll see what I can do in the future. But anyway, thanks for sticking with it, and as for now, cheers for watching, and of course I'll catch you all on the next one. Bye bye now.